Manever I say ma Pen Dream TV. Pen Dream TV there, osia dem yopo.
Abusia for yamamo akwaba e de mobile Pen Dream TV so mesrawo oba Pen Dream TV super bombarding say oba subscribe to the channel mo ane subscribe to the channel who subscribe button no na wo form ho no subscribe e boa e me dwumadi a yedi no ha no eno so ekwa anim ye boa yen enti mesrawo say odi eno so ebe push yen we are like video no na share to other platforms mine na wo adwenkyere bi su ampacha wo hwe video na wo de comment no ato ase na yehu ososo wadwen a wo edifa sa video hu abusua mesraw video me pese me no yekọ ne yekọhwe ane nsem a ekoso e wo manhu asade wonim sade Pen Dream TV de bia ye mamo no yekofa nsem no ye de abram na mo nkasa mo hu nyoma ekoso wo manhu yenkọ na yenkotie na yemra sesia.
And let's understand this. The MPP went into an IMF program, signed an agreement with the IMF and borrowed $3 billion from them and committed us, this government, that we will do 1.5% of GDP. This was the commitment the MPP made to the IMF and took the money, of which by the time they were leaving office, they've spent 3/4 of the $3 billion. Now, I have come as Minister of Finance. IMF does not deal with political parties. They deal with governments and countries. I have a responsibility to achieve 1.5% of GDP. Are you telling me that I should default on the promises of which government of Ghana has taken a loan from the IMF? Certainly no, I can't do that. I have to make sure that this condition is met. And it is for that reason that IMF is bold enough to go to their board that Ghana has achieved all the conditionalities of which they loaned us. And so Ghana is actually exiting the IMF program. If today the inflation is coming on the back of food inflation, what can the central bank do? It's government policy. It's the government of the day's policy. It's not always hiking. It's the government policy that we have to employ to be able to deal with the food inflation. If today inflation is coming on the back of the issues we are seeing in the Middle East and prices of fuel is going up, government will be the one that will have to act, not always the central bank. Just like we did before when we introduced that temporary relief to bring the price of fuel down so that inflation does not hit the roof. It was not only the responsibility of the central bank. So for the first time, we amended the Bank of Ghana Act to make inflation targeting a joint responsibility between the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, so that all of us will target inflation. And so if we know that inflation is supposed to be 8%, I know my role. The central bank governor will have to know his role, so that together, the coordination between the monetary authorities and fiscal authorities, together we can work to tame inflation for all of us to be.
Recently, we've seen that inflation is beginning to trend back up. What's happening there?
But I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried because the outlook of inflation doesn't look bad. I think inflation will come back to
8 plus or minus 2.
No,
that's what the get said.
No, that is the target. That is the target. The target is 8 plus minus 2. So it means the lower is 6 and the upper is 10. Today is 5.3. Still lower than NDF 5.4. And it is my hope that we'll end the year with inflation in 5%.
Let's run through the numbers now. The microeconomy that you say back the prudence.
Yes.
These three implementation policies that will lead to this.
Yes.
You talked about you've exceeded your targets.
Yes.
Overall real GDP growth of 6.4%
for the
first quarter of 2026. It's well ahead of the 4.8% full year target.
Yes.
Now, the minority did a press conference. Your good friend, Kojo Nkrumah, addressed it. And it raised a very fundamental point about this. So 6.4, and this is the first quarter on account of gold.
Oh, no.
Because if you look,
let him look into the numbers.
If you look at the statistical service, says gold contributed 10% of the growth. The next one is 7%. In fact, gold and quarrying.
Okay.
And they make the point that, to quote him, this is galamsey growth, galamsey fueled growth. Because back in 2024 April, when they had similar high growth rate, again, large on account of gold, you said the same.
Oh, yes. I don't rather.
Do you admit on the
I disagree.
Gold is 10%.
You see, at the time I was making that statement, I recall in 2024, the gold portion was more than it's almost twice the number.
It was. I mean, it's around 14%.
It's about 14%. Yes. I don't remember exactly the number, but was certainly more than the 10%.
It was. Just factually, yes, it was. It's around 14%. We'll check that. I have that data.
Exactly.
When we said we'll refer back to it, but it's around 14% at the time.
Today, you can see that even though the gold price is high, even though output is high, it is not up to that 14%. It is, let's say, 10%.
It was 10. That's what statistical services.
10%. And you can see that it is broad-based. It is broad-based in the sense that it's 10% of 100. And 10% of 100 indicates that others are equally doing well.
So services
sector
was 7.
Is bouncing back. Bouncing back.
But Dr. Forson, if you look at the fact that it's 10% and the services, which has always been the carrying the bulk.
Let me tell you something.
It tells you a lot, is it not?
Let me tell you something. What Gold Board has done is largely to stop gold that was in the past smuggled out of Ghana. That is significant. It may not necessarily be new gold being produced, but in the past, Ghana had never had a handle on the smuggling of gold out of our country until recently, when we created a monopoly for Gold Board to be the national assayer and buyer of small-scale gold. Today, we are seeing the true value of our gold. In fact, look at the numbers Gold Board has purchased recent and the numbers they purchased during their time. And yet, even that time, gold was 14%, even though we are buying more and stopping the smuggling gold. So clearly you can see that the argument is not founded. This growth that we are seeing is quite broad-based. Yes, I recognize that gold has played a major role, but it is also important for us to equally accept and understand that it is far better than under their time. It is a fact. It is far better than under their time. And services is doing well. But Evans, let me make this point. Beginning of the year, I made mention that Ghana's GDP growth will be at least 4.8%. First quarter, I'm seeing 6.4. I'm very hopeful that the target of at least 4.8% will be achieved and even exceeded. I'm very hopeful that will be exceeded. But be it as it may, I'm very cautious. And so I have the government has decided that the 4.8% of 4.8% GDP growth, real GDP growth for 2026 must be maintained.
Okay, and you said non-oil real GDP.
But non-oil
is also 6.3.
It's also 6.3.
Doing well in the first quarter of 2026. And another key data, inflation, which we've already talked about.
Spoken about.
Falling from 13.7%. To 5.3%, and you've said that you're so more confident that in around.
We will. I think we will be in the within the target band. The lower band is 6%,
okay.
8 plus or minus 2. And so even if we are the lower band by the
I think the last time you were here, you were confident around 6, ending the year around 6. Okay, and then the primary balance, another key one that had come up for a bit of scrutiny. I mean, and primary balance of 0.9%. We'll talk about that when we sit down to disaggregate it a bit more. But 0.9%, and by the way, primary balance is one of those terms when the economists bandy about. The ordinary guys are scratching their head. So I had to go and take my dictionary and find out what that means. Basically, your income versus what you're expending. If you take away, you don't account for your interest. And so if you're doing a surplus, it means you're spending within your means.
Yes.
That basically is what it is.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? And you now have even surplus.
Yes. our target was to do 1.5% of GDP surplus by the end of the year.
Okay. Explain to me what is accounting for this. Is it that the accusation against you is that Ato is not spending? Ato is too stingy.
I can spend only what I have, my brother. If I don't have the resources, I can spend. And let's understand this. The MPP went into an IMF program, signed an agreement with the IMF, and borrowed $3 billion from them, and committed us, this government, that we will do 1.5% of GDP. This was the commitment the MPP made to the IMF, and took the money, of which by the time they were leaving office, they have spent 3/4 of the $3 billion. Now, I have come as Minister of Finance. IMF does not deal with political parties. They deal with governments and countries. I have a responsibility to achieve 1.5% of GDP. Are you telling me that I should default on the promises of which government of Ghana has taken a loan from the IMF? Certainly no, I can't do that. I have to make sure that this condition is met. And it is for that reason that IMF is bold enough to go to their board that Ghana has achieved all the conditionalities of which they loaned us, and so Ghana is actually exiting the IMF program. This is a commitment that the people of Ghana and the government of Ghana must fulfill. And I can tell you that I am on course to fulfill this. I've done 0.9, and so by the end of the year, even if you annualize 0.9 times 2, halfway, times 2, it will be 1.8. It means getting to the end of the year, I will have room to be able to spend 0.3% more. And that is what it means. This is a commitment. I did not set the target. It was actually a conditionality under the IMF program, and the government of Ghana cannot do anything.
Do you accept the criticism that it's all because you're not spending?
Oh, no, but do you want me to spend and derail the IMF program? Is that what they want me to do? I think it's a bigger question. It is President Akufo-Addo and his government that took Ghana to IMF and agreed to this conditionality. Unless they want me and President Mahama, because it's President Mahama's budget, to derail the IMF program so that we spend as if there's no tomorrow, crash the economy again, and go back to economic crisis with a haircut.
Yeah, and just another nuance there is that I look at your revenue numbers, because as you say, surplus is all your revenue. What is your earning as against what you're spending?
Exactly.
I look at your revenue numbers, and you are not hitting your target.
Oh, I think it's
marginal.
Yes,
marginal.
0.1%.
But what stands out is the significant drop in the expenditure numbers. That is just in your face.
Okay, so let me show you something. If you look at total expenditure and conclude that we are not spending on the back of that expenditure, you make a mistake. You need to look into the expenditure and understand the component of the expenditure that goes to the primary expenditure, of which you get primary balance from. Because some of the expenditures relate to interest. And so, because of the reduction of the exchange rate, the reduction of the T-bill rate, government for the first half of the year alone, we have saved 4.2 billion Ghana cedis on domestic interest for first half of the year.
And T-bill interest rates, the lower it goes, a stronger indication of the economic.
Exactly. And so we have saved pretty much. We have also saved on external interest because of the stability of the currency. And we have paid because, for example, if I want to service, let's say, $1 billion in CDs, a CD equivalent. If the CD is 10, it's 10 times 1 billion. If the CD is 20, it is certainly 20 times 1 billion. So I will end up paying twice. And because of the stability of the currency, I'm saving that kind of money. And so the expenditure component you are talking about, the one that hits you, is actually coming from savings from interest. Interest on the grounds that government has saved money. That money that we have saved, it is not available because the principle is that the IMF target was on 1.5% of primary balance and not overall deficit.
And one more point, I noticed that in the first quarter you did a surplus of 1.2.
Correct.
In the second quarter, you're doing 0.9. That's a reduction. What's accounted for?
I think it's, again, interest has, which one?
That, yeah, I mean, but the same number. 0.9% of GDP.
I think more revenue came in.
More revenue came in.
More revenue came in the second half. And let me say that publican has been, has contributed quite significantly to our revenues. And so you can rely more on your revenues than to borrow. Okay.
Now, is it borrow? Yes. Public debt. What you say to us today is that after the end of June 2026, domestic debt accounted for 54.4% of Ghana total debt, while external debt is 45.6%. But on the 7th of February, you honored the SIT domestic exchange program coupon payment of 10.1 billion, and then 7th DDEP coupon payment. So you're honoring your obligations as far as the debt is concerned. But there's this that I need you to comment on for me. This is, whilst you pay this, there's nothing compared to what you're about to pay. In 2027, you are telling us we're going to be paying 58 billion. And then in election year of all years, you're going to pay 53 billion. So how are you going to manage this?
Evans, I recall my days at the Minority Secretariat as the minority leader. And I recall when I reviewed these numbers, I was scared. I recall at the time my submission to Parliament is that whoever get the privilege to win the election to serve the people of Ghana, and the one that will become finance minister will have a hurdle.
They didn't know you were going to become
I never knew it was going to be me. Here am I.
Obusiafo Madam Asese mo nya aso ene ebre nya bre tibitna se ehwe eye video yi ne Pendrim TV suni se ne de bia ye kano no mesrel se obe subscribe to the channel no na like video no share na eto other platforms so emayen na wo share wi a ne asre wo se wo adwenkyire bia fato comment section no ase efamayen ane fato comment section no ase efamayen na yehu ososo wadwenkyere ane ene Ghana de se ya ena abrebia no eko saa so ne be make sure say ensem bia ekosom Pendrim TV ye de bebro Pendrim TV yese edam yopo
Maneva na sema Pendrim TV de ose edam yopo